Hello and welcome to Indus News, live from Islamabad. I am Muneeb Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the top stories first. A United Nations report has acknowledged the ongoing efforts of Pakistan against elements involved in terrorist activities. It appreciated Pakistan for arresting individuals engaging in terror financing and clamping down on the assets of the designated individuals and entities, but cautioned that the reunification of splinter groups of TTP in Afghanistan is not only a threat to Pakistan, but the entire region. Pakistan's army is carrying out the search operation for 3 climbers who went missing while descending the world's second tallest mountain, K2. Pakistan's Muhammad Ali Satmara, John Snorri from Iceland, and Juan Pablo Moore from Chile lost contact with the base camp on Friday. According to President Alpine Club of Pakistan, Abu Zafar Sadiq, chances for the survival of the climbers are very slim. In India, as many as 150 people are feared dead after a Himalayan glacier crashed into a dam in northern Uttarakhand state. The broken dam prompted a deluge of water to pour through a valley, forcing mass evacuations. In Myanmar's biggest city of Yangon, thousands of people marched for a second day against the military coup and the detention of Aung San Suu Kyi. Many held pictures of detained Suu Kyi and wore red, the color of her party. Internet access now appears to have been partially restored. British drug maker AstraZeneca says its vaccine gives limited protection against mild disease caused by the South African variant. The firm said it believes that the jab protects against severe disease caused by the variant. Meanwhile, Pakistan has registered over 1,300 new cases and 53 fatalities overnight, taking the death toll to 11,967. While globally, the virus has claimed over 2.3 million lives and has infected more than 105 million people so far. And in cricket, South Africa are 127 for 1 against Pakistan at the close of play on day 4 of the final test in Rawalpindi. They are chasing a target of 370 runs with Raisi van der Dusen and Aiden Makram still at the crease. Earlier, Pakistan scored 298 runs in the second innings thanks to Mohammad Rizwan's maiden century. Top stories, news in detail after a short break. Welcome back. Now let's have the news in detail. A United Nations report has acknowledged the ongoing efforts of Pakistan against the elements involved in terrorist activities, but warned that the reunification of TTP splinter groups in Afghanistan poses a threat to Pakistan and the entire region. It's the 27th report to the UN Security Council by the UN monitoring team responsible for tracking terrorist groups such as Al-Qaeda and ISIS. The report appreciated Pakistan for arresting individuals engaging in terror financing and clamping down on the assets of the designated individuals and entities. Addressing the activities of TTP, the report said the terror group was responsible for over 100 cross-border attacks between July and October last year. Now, Pakistan has handed over a dossier last year to the UN Secretary General on the Indian sponsorship of TTP. Pakistan's army has relaunched the search operation for 3 climbers who went missing while ascending the world's second tallest mountain, K2.
Unlike Mount Everest, which has been scaled by thousands of climbers, K2 is much less traveled due to its tough conditions. Winds can blow at more than 200 kilometers per hour, and temperatures can drop to -60 degrees Celsius. But Pakistan's Muhammad Ali Satbara, along with John Snorri from Iceland and Juan Pablo Mohr from Chile, began their push for the K2 summit at midnight between Thursday and Friday. They lost contact with the base camp on Friday, prompting authorities in Pakistan to launch a search operation. The Pakistan Army is carrying out the rescue operation at the height of 8,000 meters, with freezing winds running 90 km per hour in -60 temperature. Yesterday, an Army helicopter also conducted a search operation but could not trace anything. Meanwhile, Pakistan's Foreign Minister discussed the missing of mountaineer John Snorri with his Icelandic counterpart. Qureshi apprises Thordarson of the steps taken by Pakistani authorities to search, rescue the missing mountaineers.
Now, for more on this, we are joined by Abu Zafar Sadiq, the president of Alpine Club of Pakistan. Sir, thank you very much for your time. Now, what are the updates of the search operation launch for the 3 missing climbers on K2?
Update is that today heli flew to the base camp, and we expect that they will have an aerial search of the missing climbers. We also expect that the climbers who are sitting in the base camp, like Dawa Sharwa and Sona, who have climbed, K2. This one of them climbed K2 in this winter as well, and Dawa, who have climbed thrice earlier. They will taken on, board and will fly with the crew of the heli and search above, very height, about 8,000 meters or below that. So the update is that the rescue and the search, operation is going on after, yesterday's efforts today are continued.
Right, Mr. Sadiq, now it's been 3 days since we last heard from the missing climbers. Is there any past example of survival after such circumstances?
Survival chances are there, and if they are, have come to the Camp 3, as we know that there is established Camp 3, and the son of Hassan Satbara, who came down yesterday, if after leaving the base camp by the son of Ali Satbara, if they have arrived to the Camp 3, then there is a possibility. Otherwise, there are not much chances, particularly in this extreme, winter expeditions, for survival 3 days, because they don't have their own tent like this sport for spending night in a, comfortable or at least a safe, environment.
All right, they have our prayers indeed. Mr. Abu Zafar Sadiq, sir, thank you very much for talking to Indus News. Now, moving on, at least 150 people are feared dead in India's northern Uttarakhand state after a Himalayan glacier broke and crashed into a dam. The resulting floods have forced mass evacuations from villages in the Chamoli district. Witnesses say a wall of dust, rock and water as an avalanche rode down a river valley. Locals say there were 75 to 80 workers working at the dam when the disaster struck. Locals fear that all of them have been swept away. Meanwhile, another Indian farmer has committed suicide during the protest against the farm laws at Tikri border near New Delhi. As many as 175 people have died during the agitation. According to the suicide note, the farmer took his life in protest against the government's controversial laws. Meanwhile, the farmer unions have called on peasants across the country to join the tractor revolution. The Farmers Union also warned that they will intensify their agitation in the coming days if the laws are not repealed by October. At a press conference, Congress Rahul Gandhi also expressed solidarity with the deadline announced by the farmers. He called on the Modi government to quit arrogance and end the suffering of the innocent farmers by withdrawing the anti-agricultural laws. Now moving to Afghanistan, where a policeman has been killed and 7 people injured in 2 separate blasts in the eastern province of Nangarhar. Local officials said a car bomb targeted a police outpost in the Kokyani district of the province. 1 policeman was killed and 2 others wounded in the attack. Meanwhile, a roadside bomb targeted a police vehicle in the city of Jalalabad, wounding 2 policemen and 3 civilians. No group has claimed responsibility for the attacks. Now, in Myanmar, thousands of people have marched for a second day against the military coup and detention of Aung San Suu Kyi in Yangon. The protesters carried red balloons representing the National League for Democracy Party and chanted slogans against the military. The protests are the biggest demonstrations in the country since the 2007 Buddhist monk-led Saffron Revolution. After a day-long blackout, internet access has now been restored. This comes after the parliament in a joint statement rejected the military rule. Nearly 300 lawmakers say they alone represent the people and will continue their struggle for democracy. Now, Iran threatens it will have to harden its nuclear stance if the United States sanctions are not eased by the 21st of February. In an interview, Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif urged Washington to act fast to return to the 2015 nuclear accord. He said time is running out for the Americans because of the parliament bill and the upcoming elections in the country. Zarif warned that the deal could be jeopardized if a hardline president is elected in June elections. United States President Joe Biden's administration is exploring ways to restore the deal, but it says the accord will only be restored after Tehran resumes strict compliance with its terms. Moving on now, China's ambassador to the UK has slammed the media report regarding expelled Chinese journalists. Ambassador Liu Xiaoming said the Chinese journalists in Britain always abide by professional ethics and local laws. The Chinese ambassador said journalists from Beijing report in line with truthfulness and factual accuracy. Xiaoming said the media personnel promote understanding between the peoples of the two countries. The Chinese embassy also urged Britain to discard the ideological prejudice against China. It called on London to treat the China-UK cooperation objectively and fairly for a more conducive bilateral relationship. Now, British drug maker AstraZeneca says its vaccine gives limited protection against the South African variant.
The company's statement came after a recent study claimed that the vaccine was ineffective against the mutant strain of the virus. Meanwhile, Latin America is once again in the eye of the COVID-19 storm. Mexico has reported over 1,300 deaths, while nearly 100 people lost their lives in Brazil over the past 24 hours. Brazil's rate of infection spread has also spiked again, with over 50,000 people contracting the virus for the third straight day. Globally, the virus has claimed over 2.3 million lives and infected more than 105 million people.
Meanwhile, in Pakistan, another 53 people have died from COVID-19 over the past 24 hours. The country's death toll has risen to 11,967. The Health Ministry says 1,346 new infections were detected overnight. Out of nearly 554,000 cases detected so far, more than 510,000 people have recovered. The number of active coronavirus cases in the country has crossed 32,000, with the southeastern Sindh province worst hit. The ministry said the death rate is 2.2%. More news coming up in this bulletin after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now moving on with the news stories. The Saudi-led military coalition in Yemen says it has intercepted and destroyed an armed Houthi drone. Coalition spokesman Colonel Turki al-Malki said the drone was headed towards the southern Saudi Arabia. The bomb-laden unmanned aerial vehicle aimed to target civilians and their properties. The coalition intervened in Yemen in March 2015 against the Houthis after the group ousted the Saudi-backed government from power in the capital, Sana'a. Now, Musa Faki Mohammed has won a second term as the head of the African Union's executive body. The seasoned Chadian diplomat swept the election with 51 of 55 African leaders' votes. Rwanda's Monique Zangambagwa has been elected as deputy chairperson of the African Union Commission with 42 votes. The secret ballot took place during a two-day virtual summit of the heads of state dedicated to the coronavirus pandemic. The leaders are also set to elect commissioners of the AUC during their 34th biannual assembly. Earlier, the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, assumed the annual chairmanship of the union. Now, Sudan has warned Ethiopia against any unilateral step to fill the Renaissance Dam on the Blue Nile. Khartoum has termed the move a direct threat to Sudan's national security. In an interview, Sudanese Irrigation and Water Resources Minister Yasir Abbas said if Ethiopia goes ahead with its plans, it will threaten the lives of half the population in central Sudan. He added that the filling will also hold the supply of irrigation water for agricultural projects. Sudan has proposed mediation by UN, the AU, the EU and the US to help break the impasse. This coincides with the increased tensions between Sudan and Ethiopia over disputed farmland near their shared border. Now, Russia's energy giant Gazprom has resumed pipelaying for the Nord Stream 2 natural gas project in Denmark's waters. This comes amid increasing pressure against the Moscow-led project from Washington. Gazprom said the latest pipelaying activities by Fortuna followed successful completion of sea trials. It added that all works were being performed in line with the relevant permits. The new link will double the capacity of the existing Nord Stream pipeline to 110 billion cubic meters of gas per year. Around 120 kilometers of the pipeline will be laid in Danish waters as well as 30 kilometers in German waters. Now, the US has long opposed the pipeline, saying it will increase Russian leverage over Europe. Meanwhile, in the US state of Utah, 4 skiers have died while 4 others have been injured after an avalanche in the Mill Creek Canyon near Salt Lake City. The snow slip marks the 3rd deadly episode in days and the deadliest in years since May 2014. Police officials told reporters the skiers were in 2 groups, one group of 5 and another of 3. They said the 4 survivors were able to dig themselves out of the snow and call 911. Efforts are underway to dig out the bodies of the skiers who died. Now, Frank Rothwell from Britain has become the oldest person to row across the Atlantic unassisted. The 70-year-old grandfather completed the 3,000-mile journey from Tenerife to Antigua in 56 days. Rothwell was one of the 8 solo rowers competing in the contest known as the world's toughest row. Rothwell says he has been training for this journey for the past 18 months and was well prepared for it. Through his journey, Rothwell has raised over $800,000 for the research of dementia. Rothwell is an experienced sailor, having sailed all over the world, including 3 previous journeys across the Atlantic. Now, unusual and somewhat scary scenes are coming out of Indonesia's Pekalongan city. The streets seem to be flooded with blood after the region was hit by torrential rains. Let's find out more in this report.
A surreal blood-red river inundated the Indonesian village of Jangat after floods hit a nearby batik factory. The seemingly apocalyptic scenes caused a frenzy on social media. What many don't know is that it is not uncommon for rivers in Pekalongan to turn different colors. Bright green water covered another village north of the city during a flood last month.
This blood-red water was caused by chemical dye for batik clothes, which belonged to one of the residents who manufactures batik at home. It leaked and inundated flood water. Some people found a box of cloth dye, but we cannot salvage it as it was already broken by the water.
Some villagers were seen walking through the red water, while some complained about the inconvenience it had caused. Pekalongan is a city known for manufacturing batik. It is a traditional Indonesian method of using wax to resist water-based dyes to depict patterns and drawings, usually on fabric.
Now, Russians have celebrated the annual Sunny Fest in Mamadesh town in the Republic of Tatarstan. The event reads in the Russian Sleigh Festival. Let's find out more in this report.
A good winter weekend consists of a lot of sledging and pancakes for one provincial Russian town. The Sleigh Festival in Mamadesh town is in its 5th year and sees several dozen teams compete on an ice slope, wearing comical costumes and going downhill in decorated sledges for the award of the most festive platform. Decorations included references to traditional Russian and Tatar fiction, as well as parades and tanks. The students of a local Polytechnic college prepared a giant pancake that was 2.5 meters in diameter to mark the festival.
We are cooking a giant pancake. It is a giant pancake, 2.5 meters wide. Its recipe is a secret. Water, flour, eggs, sugar, and all the rest.
Representatives of Turkish business in Tatarstan also took part in the festival, with the Turkish flag featuring in the contest.
Now in Denmark, the annual Copenhagen Light Festival has kicked off with coronavirus restrictions still in place. The event has brought much needed light and bursts of colour to the Danish capital.
The light installations are mostly located inside and around the Copenhagen city centre. But due to coronavirus pandemic, guided tours, talks and pop-up events have been cancelled. Instead, visitors can find information about the installations on the city's bridges and buildings through an interactive map.
We are so happy, thankful and proud of having, I guess, the only lighting festival of the year. I cannot express how many people have been doing an extra effort to make this possible, but we have certainly been working for a long stretch, and it's just an amazing thing to see all these people suddenly going around the city.
The event marks the 4th year the festival is taking place, and this time around 30 light installations can be seen around the city.
It's a 3-kilometer route, and actually there's another route of 3 other kilometers. So people having a good time in a good distance and enjoying themselves, seeing the city in a new way.
Locals and foreigners alike are delighted for this gleaming distraction from lockdown and the pandemic.
Copenhagen Light Festival, it's just really great in a cold February. Something to do, something to come out into town for. Even though it's cold, it's really nice to just actually have something.
The festival will last throughout February, with people jubilant to witness such a beautiful display of lights.
Now, most of the gold stocks have advanced as investors rally to positive sentiment in the global markets. Abu Dhabi Securities Exchange edged up marginally after the government revealed its plan to reduce the exchange transactions fee by more than 22%. Kuwait's Premier Index and 50 stock index gained close to 0.5%. Qatar exchange shares also rose above 0.5%, with Industries Qatar trading over 2% higher. But the Dubai financial markets dropped 0.5%. And now let's have a look at the weather updates across the globe. And that is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.